Hey guys, happy Holy Week. Yesterday was the start of Holy Week. Yesterday was Palm Sunday. So normally you would have gone to Mass and you would have been given the palms that you would play with all Mass long, no matter how many times your parents told you to stop, and you would have tried to make them into crosses or maybe other things like that. And I probably would have done the same thing if I'm being perfectly honest. But obviously, given our circumstances, we didn't have the opportunity to go to Mass. Um, but it is the start of Holy Week, and I wanted to help you guys enter into Holy Week in a beautiful way. Um, so what I thought I would do instead of doing the saint of the day every day this week, I thought I would go into the readings of the day, and hope that that will help you enter a certain seriousness for this week, um, to try to live this week in relationship with God. So we're going to look in relationship with God. We're going to look closely at the words He gives us this week to do that. So I'm actually going to read you the reading today. The first reading is from the prophet Isaiah. It says, "Here is my servant whom I uphold, my chosen one with whom I am pleased, upon whom I have put my spirit. He shall bring forth justice to the nations, not crying out, not shouting, not making his voice heard in the street. A bruised reed he shall not break, and a smoldering wick he shall not quench, until he establishes justice on the earth. The coastlands will wait for his teaching. Thus says God the Lord, who created the heavens and stretched them out, who spreads out the earth with its crops, who gives breath to its people, and spirit to those who walk on it. I, the Lord, have called you for the victory of justice. I have grasped you by the hand. I formed you and set you as a covenant of the people, a light of the nations, to open the eyes of the blind, to bring out prisoners from from confinement, and from the dungeon those who live in darkness." So Isaiah gives us, um, rather, God presents His Son to us through the prophet Isaiah, um, in meekness. I'm stealing some notes that Father Roberto gave me, uh, so you can know that it's good stuff, not just Mr. McPherson's rambling. But he presents his son to us in meekness. I don't know if you guys remember what the word meek means from when we learned the Beatitudes, but it's almost like a quiet, small, very similar to humble. Remember, he says he does not shouting in the reading. He says, I give you my son, sorry, my servant, and he's not crying out. He's not shouting. He's not making sure that everyone hears him. He's meek. Also in this reading, God promises to fulfill His covenant. He promises the victory of justice. He promises a light for the nations. He promises to open the eyes of the blind, to bring out prisoners from confinement, prisoners out of jail. Now, you guys might hear that and say, well, I'm not blind. I'm not a prisoner. I'm not in jail. Although maybe these days you feel like you're in jail, right? But we're all blind in certain ways. Maybe we're blind for how selfish we can be. We don't see how selfish we are. Or maybe we don't see the love that God gives us. Right? That's the way that we're blind. And God can open our eyes to see His love for us. Or He can open our eyes to our sin, even. Or maybe we're a slave to a certain sin. Right? Maybe we're a slave to laziness. Instead of doing what God asked me, I'm a slave to my laziness. So I can't say no. I can't say yes to working because just getting up and working is too hard. Getting up and doing my schoolwork is too hard, or my chores. So maybe I'm a slave to laziness. God can free us from that slavery. And that's the first reading. All right. Now to the gospel. It's the Gospel according to John chapter 12, verses 1 through 11. 6 days before Passover, Jesus came to Bethany, where Lazarus was, whom Jesus had raised from the dead. Think about it. It's a pretty big deal when you get raised from the dead. Someone's raised from the dead. And think about how real this is as we continue. They gave a dinner for him there, and Martha served, while Lazarus was one of those reclining at the table with him. Just a few days before, Lazarus was dead. Now he's eating dinner with Jesus. Mary took a liter of costly perfumed oil made from genuine aromatic nard, and anointed the feet of Jesus and dried them with her hair. The house was filled with the fragrance of the oil. Then Judas the Iscariot, one of the disciples and the one who would betray him, said, "Why was this oil not sold for 300 days' wages and given to the poor?" So you have to understand, the oil that Mary is giving as a gift was very expensive. Look, Judas says that it's worth 300 days' wages, which probably for them, that means basically a year's salary for this oil to give a gift to Jesus, who she loved. And Judas poses an interesting question. Why was this not sold and then given to the poor, the wages? But Judas said this not because he cared about the poor, but because he was a thief and held the money bag and used to steal the contributions. So he wasn't really interested in helping the poor. He was interested in himself. So Jesus said, "Leave her alone. Let her keep this for the day of my burial. You always have the poor with you, but you do not always have me." The large crowd of the Jews found out that he was there and came, not only because of him, but also to see Lazarus, whom he had raised from the dead. Of course, people came to see someone who was raised from the dead. How often do you see people raised from the dead? Makes sense, right? And the chief priests plotted to kill Lazarus too, because many of the Jews were turning away and believing in Jesus because of him. And that's today's gospel. We see that the most important thing in life is our relationship with Jesus, right? So our gifts should be given to Jesus, and there's many ways to give them. In this circumstance, Jesus was present physically with Martha and Mary and Lazarus, and they wanted to give this oil as a gift, and Jesus saw that it came from love for him, right? Whereas Judas just wanted that thing for himself. And so he tried to twist the situation, saying Martha, Lazarus, and Mary, they were selfish for keeping the oil, right? They should have given it to the poor. He tried to twist it. But Jesus knew the hearts of those people. He knew that it was good, and he was thankful. We also see that trouble's brewing because the chief priests were not happy that so many were starting to follow Jesus. So we see the crucifixion looming. We also hear that Judas is the one that betrays him, right? How does he betray him? With selfishness. We start to see inside of Judas, and we can see some of Judas inside all of us, I think. I mean, I can see some of Judas in me. So let's pray. Let's pray that we can be like Mary, Martha, Lazarus, that we can live for Jesus, that our gifts, things that we're given, be given to Jesus. If we give to the poor, not out of our own selfishness, not in a way that, I want to be seen as a good person, but I do this for you, Jesus, right? Let's try to enter deeper into a relationship with him this week starting yesterday, really, but you can start today if you haven't started. If you already started, great. Keep it going.